Guys, we have talked endlessly over the last month about the release of Snow White. Everything from the controversies around Rachel Zegler that go all the way back to 2022, the comparisons between her and Gal Gadot as it relates to promotion for the movie, along with the way that Hollywood and the trades have treated Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot differently in the release of this movie as it relates to promotion and their political views. We have also gotten into the other controversies, like the removal of actual dwarves from the movie, instead opting for CGI characters. We were actually talking about how you would actually need a book to kind of list out all of the problems. But if you're going to look for the best way to summarize all of it, it's articles like this, which tell you it's on track to lose about $200 million at the box office. So here's the thing.
That's bad, right?
Yes, losing $200 million is always, I mean, I would argue actually, guys, that if you make a movie for $250 million and you make $1 million on the movie, that's bad too. Like, you don't invest $250 million of your money to make $1 million back. Like corporations cut whole divisions for not making enough profit, let alone just squeaking by when you decide to invest that heavily into something. So they're still operating on the idea here that this was a $270 million budget with $100 million invested into the promotion for the film. And it opened to $43 million here and $44 million for a total opening week of $87 million. And they're already dropping the week 2 numbers to anywhere between 17 and 25 million, which means a $21 million week 2 would be the 50% drop, and it's guaranteed to be more than that.
So just to put that in context, I'm pretty sure the total budget, including the film and the marketing for the first Transformers movie, was $250 million, and that was, what, 2008?
Well, so here's the thing. So I was doing some math a little bit before the show to figure out what the kind of like splits were for certain films that we would kind of equate to what we have right now. So, for example, like the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, its budget in 2003 was $140 million. Oh, my God. Corrected for inflation, that's $245. 2007, Pirates 3 was $300 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's $567 million today.
What did it make?
It made $1.5 million adjusted for today's box office.
And the number one thing
$1.5 billion, my bad.
That's
the
crazy.
number one thing that they never adjust for inflation when they give you these numbers.
Yeah.
That's the way that they obfuscate. Like, even go back to, so this movie opened below Dumbo, which was their worst live action remake. And even that, 2019 to 2025 has a large number of inflation to just those numbers, not even counting stuff that goes all the way back to the early 2000s or even farther back.
Yep.
And the movie is currently sitting at 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. Its IMDb score is 1.6 out of 10, and it has a Metacritic score of 50%. The 1.6 out of 10 reeks of shenanigans to me.
Yeah.
It's just that people hate it so much they don't care to go and investigate. Makes sense to me. On top of all of these controversies, it makes me wonder if the real issue here is just you cannot outrun bad press. Because a question I'll pose to you guys, because you might not be considered a normie in this sense, but I consider you guys, if you're not reading this news every day, to be what I would think of as a normie, right? So does an actor's stupid comments stop normies from going to movies?
I think it depends on how bad it is.
Yeah.
Like, the whole Blake Lively situation, I think, stopped people from going to see that movie.
What?
The whole, like, thing with that movie she came out with.
No, that movie did well.
Did it really?
Yes, that movie did well. Like, in a large part because she kind of watered down the serious tone of the movie and made it about feminism and wearing floral prints and
that's
like
so
That
surprising.
that movie, considering that movie shouldn't even theoretically be coming out in theaters because it just reeks of streaming. Yeah. You're talking about the one she did with Justin Baldoni,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Colleen
everything I saw about that online was that people were specifically not going to go see it. Because
No, it did well.
No, see, you've made the mistake of assuming that online boycotts ever manifest in real
There's
life.
Right.
There is
so
a $20 super chat here from award-winning. We will not say the end of that, as Mary always says. You have failed in your message, in your activism, and in your film, Rachel. I award you nothing. You lose. So says the award winner. I actually look.
I'm glad
I don't
that
think
you also have esoteric commenters in your
Yes.
streams.
Yeah.
Like I think she was the best part of a mediocre movie. I don't think that she gave a horrible performance. I think her singing was perfectly fine, if not too similar from song to song. And I think that the number one point of the movie was that people were spending more time dunking on Gal Gadot, which makes no sense because she's in the movie for like all of 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes tops. But it's really not about that. It's back to what we were talking about here. People don't go to your movie if you've turned people off so heavily that you're risking a movie losing $200 million just because you can't rein in the person starring in it.
She kind of just was in, like, she insulted the original cartoon, which wasn't a good move.
That,
I
to
also
me, is
am
the bigger
completely incapable of watching this movie, and I cannot suspend my disbelief enough to believe that Gal Gadot would be jealous of Rachel Zegler's appearance.
I feel like Rachel Zegler's behavior was the icing on the cake of a terrible, terrible cake.
Yeah.
Right? Like the remake was a bad idea. The way that they cast, they first got rid of the 7 dwarfs, and then the 7 companions. Everyone hated the idea in pre-production or when they were producing it, so they got rid of those. They had to.
Well, now then they both end up in the movie, and then they
in,
kind of smush them together.
Yeah, they had to cut in new scenes, and they had to rewrite it. So it was bad from the get-go. And then on top of it, Rachel Zegler's out there just showing her ass. You know, just being completely unlikable. And it's like, if you're the lead character, if you're supposed to be in some way a draw, you don't want to be unlikable in press. You can have opinions, you can have your opinions, but the way that you deliver them matters. And she was antagonistic and absolutely unlikable in all the press. So it was like she was like the crap icing on the crap cake.
One thing that me and Mary kind of came to the conclusion about, and I do believe this is true, I think they set her up to fail. At the original, and we talked about this yesterday and last night a little bit, which is that the original comments that really turned everyone off was when she was talking about how Snow White isn't going to be saved by the prince and how the prince is kind of a stalker. The stuff about not being saved by the prince, I 100% believe that Disney fed her that and sold her this movie as a feminist reboot of a movie.
We were talking about that last night. The only thing that Snow White does in Snow White is provide a vessel to be saved. Like she has no, there is no any form of feminist icon or anything. She does nothing.
Some movies are not
Nothing at all.
meant to be remade if the whole point is to remake it in an anathema to what it actually was.
Yes, but the point, but like the original Snow White, like if you're going to say, oh, this Snow White doesn't need to be saved, well then you're not Snow White. You're a totally different, you're using the same name and basically doing a leftist wearing of the skin, wearing it as a skin
they love
suit,
that, though.
And you're not in any way you're not even trying to pay tribute to the original at all. It's just like, this is something that has name recognition, so we're going to use this and try to capitalize on it. It's good that this movie is doing so poorly, and hopefully Disney learns, because that is absolutely atrocious.
Yep. There's a 20 here from Crandall Logan. Says, finally, both Aidens are here. Mattis, I joined Patreon at $5 to cover 4 dorks who refuse to subscribe. Hope you can keep doing what you love instead of fondling the algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be the name of my band, Fondling the Algorithm. Yeah.
The algorithm's about to get throated at this point.
And we talked about this. We talked about this earlier today about. We talked about this earlier about how Hollywood isn't interested in anything other than IP. How they're not going to invest. Look, they will make. Let me slow it down. I don't believe that the audiences want original as much as they claim, because they don't show up at the theaters for the original properties. I was really interested in Black Bag until I realized that I wasn't going to be able to go until the following week, and I've already lost interest in going to see it, right? So it's very hard to get audiences out for movies that don't have IP built into it. My favorite movie of 2023 was a film called The Creator, starring John David Washington, which was a sci-fi film that would have, they had to pay Gareth Edwards probably very minimal money and gave him $80 million to make a movie that nobody went to see, because if they had attached it to a property, it likely would have done better. And they're not willing to do that.
It's the story of Hollywood of all time. 10 Cloverfield Lane and the subsequent Cloverfield sequel were not supposed to be Cloverfield movies. They were already existing stories that then they brought into the Cloverfield universe in order to actually draw people to the audience because it worked.
It's Todd Phillips making Joker because he wanted to make a movie and they wouldn't greenlight the movie itself, so they added Batman characters onto it, which got it greenlit and got it made.
Theoretically, as a film person, I don't mind it too much because at the end of the day, it's allowing these stories to be told. And if you have to put a veil over it to make it appealing to a larger audience, okay, that can be acceptable in certain instances. But I think, like, prime example here of what we're talking about is, do you have to cut into me for that?
No, you're good.
There's two things I think that are really interesting. What you guys were talking about for Ziegler and how the promotion went for this film. I have a feeling this was an instance in which media training went wrong. And I think
you think that they just didn't get to it early enough?
No, I think specifically the current marketing strategy doesn't know how to deal with Gen Z yet. And I think they saw the reaction to Renee Rapp for Mean Girls and said, oh, that's how you do it for Gen Z with women. It's they have to be really independent on their own. They can do whatever they want. They're girl bosses. That's the vibe.
But
And
the Rachel
That's
Zegler
not
stuff would have
likable.
started. But Rachel Zegler stuff would have started before that because this movie was already into production. Mean Girls just came out last year.
No, I 100% agree, but I think in relation to not curtailing it,
Okay.
letting her just kind of like continue to do that whole vibe. I think they saw the success of Renee Rapp, and the whole industry kind of went like, okay, the generation that we are marketing this to is responding well to this behavior.
That movie didn't do that well, though. Like that's.
But everyone was talking about it, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. If you're
They
in the
still
marketing
don't
department,
understand the difference that likes don't equal out
Yeah,
to
exactly.
actual money spent on a production, right?
plus, I don't think these movies are necessarily meant to like make a lot of money. I think at the end of the day, Disney's a toy company
Yeah.
nowadays.
A
They're
theme
a
park
park. They're a
company.
they're
It's
a theme
designed to
park
hold
company.
on to the IP.
Exactly. Like it's not going to change their copyright on the original material, but it's new material that they can copyright with the same name.
There's a 20 here from St. Miles says, thank you, PCC, for enduring what I would never stomach. Fair and balanced review. Better to spend my money here. Yeah, well, I also have just a titch of the... if somebody tells me I have to hate something, it makes me want to find something to like about it. Because when you exist in this space, you're kind of pressured into holding certain views because that's the dominant narrative around it. And I don't want to do that for the most part. Depends, but again, that could just be me being a contrarian, which isn't good either necessarily on its face. So look, I don't know if this movie's going to lose $200 million. I know that either way, it's a failure for Disney because you don't invest $270 million and an additional $100 million on advertising only to make a couple of $1 million or break even, because that's not the point of a large scale corporation. Now, you could be correct that they're just doing it because they felt like they needed to make the movie, but that's more indicative of a failure of the way things are going when it comes to social media or when it comes to large scale Hollywood productions.
I would say so, but I think it's not an unreasonable suggestion to make, especially considering when you're looking at it from a studio perspective. I mean, you've never had this many outlets that you've had to worry about for marketing a film.
Yeah.
Like there is grassroots movements for really good films that are able to get picked up and a lot of people like support it and go see it, things like that. But the vast majority of the time, there's so many things happening, you can't control the narrative as a marketing department for a studio anymore.
Well, what I also don't get about the whole process at this point is that they keep losing money making movies and then making them available day one on streaming services.
That's
And then they
release windows is a big
Yeah, and they keep being like, man, well, the movie that we put on streaming services day one didn't do well. Oh no, guess it was a bad... No, if you look at the movies that they didn't do that with, some of the biggest ones the past years, Oppenheimer, Barbie, Top Gun Maverick, what did those have in common? They were all really heavily marketed theatrical releases. They went to the theaters first, and then they moved to streaming services.
I mean, I remember back in the day, it was a thing growing up where I was like, I would get annoyed when I would go to the store and the movie I knew was out in theaters or just left theaters wasn't on DVD yet. And you had to wait extended periods of times for that to show up.
Yeah,
So-
and it was also just going to the theater was a fun experience. Like,
I mean, I still enjoy it because I'm so ADHD that it forces me to sit still and pay attention.
Well,
Like,
the
that's
biggest
number
problem
one
I've
thing
ever
I-
had with theaters in the last like 5 years is that no one takes care of the theaters anymore. Like, I don't want to go into a theater that smells like garbage and I'm
Ours is
worried about
pretty
what's
good.
on the seat.
Yeah.
Like
We get the ones that recline.
No, those are
like,
nice.
yeah.
I'm talking like classic, like normal stadium style like seating. Like
Yeah.
the movie taverns type things are great, but the problem is like that's still not the traditional movie going experience. If you want a full theater like for Oppenheimer, that's a really cool experience. But for most films, if it's you and like 6 other people and like maybe 30 others in the area, it's like the only thing to cover up a bad stench in the theater, and this is multiple theaters I've been to at this point, is if you heavily load your popcorn with butter. Like, that's it. That's your only way to sit through a 2-hour film in a theater nowadays, which is a shame. And I think studios need to start holding the theater companies a little bit more accountable, because I bet that would make a change.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.